Hello everyone and welcome to another carrier rework video. Today we're going to talk about a upcoming co-op battle played by a Midway. I haven't played this game mode myself, so we're both going to be watching this video, looking at what the player does, what kind of controls are available to them, and the core thing to look at here is the main gameplay. Don't look at the damage done or that type of interaction. Look purely at how torpedoes are dropped, how rockets are fired, how bombs fall, that type of stuff. We're looking at core gameplay today, how the anti-air works. So with that being said, let's go straight into this. We have our Midway player, and we see that immediately he takes off planes. These are all fighter planes, they all take off at the same time. These are rocket planes, so quite interesting. And he flies off. We also see that there is a engine boost mechanic. There's a sort of engine health, and he uses his own usability, and that instantly recharges the own usability, and that allows him to engine boost, variable speeds. That's a cool feature. Why we don't have that for our current RTS game mode is a shame. That would have actually been pretty cool, like as a different way of balancing different nations. Make the fastest nation even have a boost. Or maybe that could have been like a legendary module thing where you get boost mechanics. Anyway, I digress. We also get a little UI notification saying that you're boosting, and it turns orange when you're over boosting or when you're low. So nice little UI elements. Anyway, first target here, we're using rockets. Rockets are the easiest to hit with all the mechanics. Circle drop, fairly simple. Bomb around the target. You're not going to make it how currently in the current game mechanic all bombs connect. It's more of a case of saturating an area and getting hits. This is great for resetting caps or just tapping something, or mainly triggering fires or disabling certain elements. In terms of raw damage, to be seen. To be balanced, but it's going to be low damage, just higher chance of hitting, as according to what Wargaming said. We also see our flak clouds that you're trying to fly and dodge. That's kind of vaguely interesting as well. What we don't know yet is how dense that will be under defensive fire, because defensive fire is probably just going to, rather than create a panic effect, increase the number of flak. So how easy is it going to be under very heavy AA to dodge this flak and get an attack in? And the other questions we have is, how many times can we attack? Sorry, not how many, but how quickly can we attack? You know, we have a group of planes, we attack once, then we go back to our larger wave, then we fly all the way around, then we attack again. Anyway, that, if you didn't notice there, that single attack ended, and then we immediately cut back to the carrier. So before we even see the results of our final strike of the rocket planes, we're straight back to the carrier. And now, he's got himself dive bombers up and running. So, usable consumables. We have an engine recharge booster, and we have an on-call fighter ability. All the planes from what we've seen so far have an on-call fighter ability. Haven't seen that in gameplay, and since you can't control the fighter group, I am very hesitant and worried about any form of team support. For example, right now we have a tier 10 Midway going to attack Fuso player in his tier 6 battleship. Not going to happen on live servers because of the gap in the tiers, but let's just say it's, you know, another battleship who's getting harassed, you know, and if you see the AA flak, you can try and weave and dodge, but depending on the density and the largeness of your plane wave, it might be impossible to dodge everything. Anyway, core gameplay mechanics, we see we have this kind of nose up, tilting down, and then we can tighten the reticle, and that's as tight as it gets. So you see you had the two green circles, the inner and the outer. The inner is the maximum focus that you can work towards and then drop. And each plane currently drops 2 bombs. So we have 3 planes in a dive bomb, and if you look carefully, you'll have 2 little bomblets on the side of the wings. So for example, when this comes down, we'll pay very, very close attention. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there was 5 dropped. Maybe there's a 6th we didn't see, but you can see the 2 bombs kind of drop off the side. And these are just high explosives. They're doing a bit of damage. They're causing a fire. Armor-piercing bombs are not in. Are they going to rebalance the armor-piercing bombs, the damage that they do, that type of stuff? We don't know yet. Plus, that's a large bot, non-movable target. How easy is it going to be with dive bombers to hit destroyers? Or this Zal, for example, should in theory, if he's wiggling and turning, getting more accurate the closer he gets. Presumably the lower you get, also the more damage you take, but he's also dropped too far behind. So you can't just take into consideration where the green reticle is. You have to give a lead, as it were, just like you lead with your guns in normal artillery fire. You have to lead up in front of the target because you have to take into consideration the time it takes the bomb to drop to then hit the target. So this particular player is still kind of learning how to aim. But for all I can tell, it's just harassment damage. Cause of fire. And the difference here, another core element, is that you are not getting fire and torpedo damage. You're only getting one. Because you can only control one plane type, you can only ever get multiple fires or a single flood. And you see after that last bombing run, it immediately snaps back to the carrier, who is currently going under autopilot, and we get torpedo bombers up. It's not like we can never cause fire and flooding. So if you're attacking with dive bombers, you need to trigger multiple fires before that particular player will be forced to damage control party, putting the fires out, which you can then, you know, follow up with that same wave to do more fires, because that seems to currently be the main source of damage. Wargaming is moving very heavily away from the Alpha Strike principle and going back to damage over times, which is similar-ish to how a tier 7 or 8 or even 9, 10 realistically Japanese aircraft carrier works. The Alpha Strike from the torpedo bombers and the dive bombers isn't that particularly high, unless of course you're a destroyer, and you need to bleed targets, fires, floods, that type of stuff, and that's kind of what we're getting here. Now, the torpedo bombers, however, these should be the main damage dealers if there were ever going to be one, and we can see this is the wide spread, and there is also a narrow. You can just see these green fins, but he's not actually using it. We're using a wide spread coming in, and that's a wide drop. Show us, but the thing is, you know, you'll see that the torpedoes typically go along the edges and one in the center line. Now the real question is, how quickly can you turn around the torpedo bombers and get another attack in? Because attacking from one direction is actually very difficult to hit a highly maneuverable target. And we're talking destroyers or British cruisers. Just look at the Independence, Ranger, Lexington, and Essex. They all have a single torpedo bomber wave of 6, and it's actually very hard to hit a target coming in from one direction because they'll turn into it or they'll turn out of it. So it's simple. Here we only have 3 torpedoes going in for a target, and yes, we can get closer, and yes, we can get that reticle to come in and aim if we want to, and then we can get a somewhat accurate drop, but the ship will just turn in, and these are bots who are not actively evading. So can I drop one set of torps to force a maneuver and a second set of torps to create that classic hammer and anvil approach? It's not going to be 12 torpedo bombers, it's still going to be 6, but at least I'm going 3 and 3, right? Anyway, so the torpedo bombers attack the Fuso. Fuso dies off. It's not a surprise, it's a tier 10 versus a tier 6 and a bot. The flak's coming in thick and heavy. We see the torpedo bombers coming down. He's on the drop range. What's actually really cool now is there is a UI element telling us the activation range. At least that's what I fairly believe it is. This is the minimum distance the torpedoes must travel before they activate. That's cool, because we never had that in the current gameplay of RTS. We have so many different speeds and activation times. For example, captain skills. Have you taken torpedo acceleration? Have you not? That changes the speed. That drops the minimum safe distance. Are you using American torpedoes? Are you using Japanese torpedoes? They have a different speed. The same with the German torpedoes. They have a different speed. It's the same with the Kaga. That is even more speed. So there must be at least 10, 12 variables if you think about it. Japanese, American, Kaga, multiply that by 2, that gives you 6 for the different variations. Oh, and then let's not forget then the Germans, that's 8, so it's 10, yes, so 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. So you've got 8 different torpedo speed variations. That's pretty crazy to learn, and all of them have a different safe distance and a different safe drop, and then there's different drop patterns. Remember, the Graf Zeppelin has a cross pattern, so the front one normally doesn't activate unless you're much further back, and anyway, you get what I'm saying here, and same with the Enterprise and all that type of stuff. But here it's nice and simple. You got a UI element. This is the minimum safe distance. These are as tight as you can possibly get the drop with enough accuracy, and you can drop. Anyway, so at least that's the way I understand it. So the player drops before he gets too close on the left one. Although he is dropping from kind of bleak angle, it's very difficult to hit. You will really want to come in from broadside, and you know, maybe he gets a connection or two. Boom, yeah. So he gets a torpedo. Okay. And we see that the flak is causing a lot of damage. Our planes are in rod hell. It's kind of cool. We're getting a lot of fire notifications. But another important thing to note is our ship is on fire. Our Midway has taken fire damage. That's why we're getting this fire effect, not because the planes are on fire. There's no way for us to control our damage control party. There's no way for us to control our defensive fire if we still have it in this rework. And it's kind of funny that all these planes take off at once. We have 2 fires on the Midway. How do we put them out? we have no control to damage control party. We have no control over secondaries, we have no control over anti-air, because remember, anti-air is now going to be kind of a zonal thing pointing a certain direction. As much as Wargaming resists it, this is another example of we are going to need to have control over the hull. And it needs to be like, the camera already shudders from the final bomb drop, boom, snap back to the carrier. So it's no different than just having, look, I'm controlling these planes, give me a number 1 button right here, that's the carrier. I can tap back to the carrier, I can position, I can maneuver, I can use abilities, I can use my secondaries, I can focus my AA to VIMs if I use my damage control, and it gives me my carrier control abilities, and then I can snap double tap number 2 again. I'm now back to my bombers, and I'm doing my bombing run. You know, something along those lines. That doesn't, I mean, I say that doesn't sound hard, but I'm sure adding more gameplay to the current system is very hard for Wargaming, but it's necessary. It's necessary. You have to have that finesse and that control. I mean, what happens if I sail into a beach or an island? How do I control the speed that my ship goes at? Is it all autopilot speed? Surely there must be some sort of ship control or speed notification. Still, early days, I'm sure Wargaming can fix this, but the hull control is somewhat lacking. The core gameplay from the torpedo bombers is actually objectively somewhat enjoyable to watch and fun to play, attacking multiple times, although the whole wave doesn't necessarily need to dive in. But then what happens when you're controlling the small wave? Does the big wave still take AA damage from all these flak clouds? You know? And are these planes causing spotting? Are these returning planes on the minimap after you drop causing spotting? Anyway, as soon as the drop happens, boom, instantly takes us back to the carrier. I don't like that. I want to see, did I hit that target with my last drop? Like, I want to stay out there and look, and then decide when I want to go back. So the game's kind of forcing you. And then, here's another element. What happens if you're being bombed a lot? Let's say you're in a game and you're playing your destroyer, cruiser, battleship, whatever, and the enemy carrier has targeted you and he's attacking you. And it's not just a one-off attack and that's it. No, he's harassing you. He's going attack, 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 and he's causing flooding with torpedo bombers, and he's just, you know, causing you so much grief. And you're like, CV, help me, help me, help me, I'm being attacked. Well, what do? I use this on-call fighter ability that creates sort of a glorified catapult fighter. We still haven't seen how the support play comes into it. I understand Wargaming is trying to go away from overly scouting, which is why we've gone from the classic 6 squads, you know, that you see in the Hiryu, Shikaku, Enterprise, Midway, that type of gameplay, which 6 is kind of, you know, the good 5 or 6, you know, good number of plane waves in the current system, to just 1. And if there's no, and the fighter control has gone from, you know, 1, 2, 3 fighter waves with an elegant system of baiting and defensing and looking and staying away, and, you know, that type of mechanic, and not knowing where the AA distance, where the flak clouds are quite cool, because it tells you if you're actually being fired at. It's actually a big UI notification, which is kind of difficult in the RTS system. But still, going back to that fighter element, if there's no team support, that's going to cheese off a lot of people. Can't help you. But you're the carrier. Yep, I'm on fighter planes. Can't help you. I'm being bombed to hell. Can't help you. Goddamn carriers, cancer of the game, attacking me all the time, and you can't help me. Yeah, exactly. You know what's going to happen. There needs to be some way that the carrier player with fighter planes can defend his team. Now, does that mean fighter versus fighter play? Not necessarily. Although I'd like to see some form of gameplay like that, but Wargaming has explicitly stated it will be action, which means it will be bombs and rockets and torpedoes versus ships. It will not be fighters or planes versus planes combat. That's not the way it's going to go, which is a shame. So how is it going to work? How am I going to do team support? That is a big, big concern for me. I mean, you just look at the war, and I understand the game is not historically accurate, it's going to be more fun, but you just look, well, that's what carriers became. They became fleet support, fleet defense. So there we have it, different consumables. Here come the dive bombers again. And he's being attacked by his out. He's on fire again. He can't control them. I don't like the UI on how everything just takes off immediately, but I'm sure they can fix that. These are minor things. We're looking purely at the core gameplay today, and the core gameplay is somewhat repetitive. Whether I use any of the 3 current offensive types, rockets, torpedoes, or dive bombers, it's the same principle. Go out, I fly my planes, and I drop. And there's not the finesse of ship positioning, stealth, angling, leading with a target, firing, or microing torpedoes or drops or viewing or whatnot. Is all you have is just one plane. And it's not like, yes, you're dodging the planes from incoming, not shell fire, but flak fire, and yes, you're turning around and you're trying to do as much damage, and maybe that becomes more fun and engaging when it's against players than bots. But right now, the concept is interesting, but it doesn't look overly fun. Or it doesn't look like, I've played this for an hour, I'm bored now. You know, it's so simplified. Is this, have they done this just so that it's ready for the console gameplay? Like, is this ready now for Xbox and PlayStation 4? Is this the reason why they've done the CV rework? And I know they want to bring more players into the game that plays carriers, because it's a very barren class, other than a few Unicums carrier player mains such as myself. But is that the reason? Because they want to tie it into console as well? Because right now this looks very, very simplified, very dull, or I don't know. It's to be seen. Until I actually get my hands on it and play it, I'll give you another feedback video there. But from just watching it from a stream perspective, I don't see massive skill. I don't see like the aimed drop or the damage that happens. I see this causing a lot more problems in its own regard. Yes, it'll fix all the existing problems because you're basically taking the old system away of the RTS gameplay. Oh, and I believe we're going to win. The team wins by killing off the last of the enemy ships. There you go. Anyway, interesting. Interesting to say the least. Final thoughts before we head off. I have concerns. I have reservations. I haven't played it yet. This was just a video that came out today, and I thought I would give my thoughts over it. You know, let you know what I feel. The concept has come a long way. We'll need to see new captain skills, and we'll need to see more stats and how much damage torpedoes do, or dive bombs, or rockets, and all that type of stuff. But right now, I'm very much disliking the hull control, the ship hull control, and I'm very much disliking the lack of team support, anti-bombing support. Whether it's I pick a ship and I pop some unused fighters and he gets some defense from a short period of time. Maybe that causes a panic or I get attacked. Don't know yet, and that kind of bugs me. So when we find out more, we'll definitely talk about it more, and I'll update you as you may or may not wish to learn more about it. Anyway, I'm going to head off for now. I hope this was an informative video. Until next time, we'll see you then. Goodbye.